So today I want to talk about the Democrats, stimulus, and Biden's plan moving forward. We finally reached the point where the lesser evil party is going to take power. Biden's about to be inaugurated on the 20th, and the Senate and House both belong to the Democrats, and they're about to take over Congress completely. So, what does this mean? Well, it ultimately means that we have to now target the Democrats as the people in power to push forward any sort of legislation. We knew full well that voting for the lesser evil, while a benefit to the society as a whole, means that we still have to deal with the evil. The Democrats are not the saviors, they never were. We were never expecting them to be, and now it's time to hold them accountable. And while the Republicans are busy trying to lie to the country and tell everybody that they were never in favor of what happened on January 6th, and are busy, in their own little conflict between McConnell and Trump supporters, it's time for the Democrats to be held into account and to proceed moving forward in a way that allows us to try to get as much as we can out of the Democrats while everyone else is busy infighting. So, what did Biden propose? Well, his proposal for stimulus and COVID-19 response includes some of the following, and I'm going to go over as much of this as possible. But the first thing to note, and I'm going to address this further later, but I just want to point it out there, the direct payment of $2,000 is not a direct payment of $2,000. It is a $1,400 payment that is meant to supplement the $600 that the Republicans pushed through and allowed to go through in December. And I'm going to touch on all that, but I need to address everything else first. So there's going to be an increase in federal per week unemployment benefits to $400 and extending it through the end of September. That, however, is not going to be given with back pay. And again, that's only $400 when last year we were seeing a sum of $600 per week. So the Democrats are still not even proposing what we were talking about last year with the Republicans and are somewhat coming up short. Again, not surprising, but this is what we're getting, right? And it's better than the 300 that we were sitting at before, so they can justify it and get away with it. They want to talk about increasing the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. By all accounts, that would be an improvement for a lot of people's lives. The $7.25 an hour that we're currently sitting at is an absolute joke. Based on inflation and everything else, we should probably be closer to $20 an hour for minimum wage to keep us in any semblance of normalcy. But there's already going to be pushback against that $15 an hour, saying it's happening too fast or too quickly and it's going to actually decrease jobs and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, this number needs to come up and needs to come up fast because people who are actually working need money. And they're going to, cite all the businesses that can't afford this. Most of them can't afford this, and this is not going to be as big of a thing as everyone's pointing out. At the end of the day, though, that $15 an hour still isn't going to fix the economy and still isn't going to fix anything. Right now, we should be talking about universal base incomes and supplements rather than a $15 per hour system where unemployment is still a lot higher than the statistics seem to show. So, extending the eviction and foreclosure moratoriums until the end of September. That sounds great in principle, but that's just adding the amount of debt that people are going to be at the end of all this. What we need to be calling for, and what the Democrats aren't calling for, is a complete stop and freeze to eviction and foreclosure payments. And I know that's really difficult because of the way the tax system functions in terms of foreclosure and eviction and the way that mortgages are handled versus rent and how the rent tax ends up going to pay for a bunch of stuff. But this needs to be frozen. Right now, people can't pay their rent. Again, there are people in this country trying to figure out whether or not they are going to pay rent, food, or medicine, all across the country. The amount of people that were close to being evicted as of a month or two ago was in the millions range, right? We're talking about up to 6 million were predicted to already be in the process of eviction, and up to 19 million were proposed to be evicted over the course of the coming months. And I don't know how much that's gone up. I haven't actually looked at it, but I'm assuming it's gotten worse. So, no, like stopping it and preventing people from getting evicted sounds great on paper, but that debt's just going to accumulate and the numbers are just going to keep rolling and rolling and rolling until we reach like a burst in this bubble. We need to start handling this problem, and this proposed Biden package doesn't seem to be handling that. So you're going to have $350 billion in state and local government aid. Hopefully, some states will actually manage that properly. I don't hold my breath that a lot of the states that have been an issue before are actually going to do what they say they're going to do with it. A state like maybe New York and California might have a better chance of potentially putting out some good resources, maybe actually, helping people with rent and situations. But I don't expect a state maybe like Florida to actually do anything positive with that, especially since it's known that Florida hasn't even been, up to date and secure about how they're handing out unemployment and flat out denying people who probably deserve it. So this state institutional level is not working across the country, and this shouldn't be this focused government aid. It should be a federal mandate on how to deal with COVID and how to deal with actually making sure people get the money they need. And that's, of course, the problem with all of this is that certain states will circumvent a lot of this and make sure that people don't actually get the care they need. So you have $170 billion going to K-12 schools and institutions of higher education. I've heard that Biden is actually trying to get schools back open. And we're still in a pandemic, people. Just need to put that out there. What we should be focusing on with that is not opening schools and getting them all available, but trying to get more relief towards actually shutting down the economy and keeping it so that we can actually maintain this virus, because there's a lot of mutations spreading out there, and the more it spreads, the more it mutates. And if it mutates too much and it spreads too much, we might be in a situation where we have to roll out another vaccine program. And if you followed this channel or you followed any of the vaccine news, vaccine's not working very well in terms of how it's being rolled out. We don't have the infrastructure for it, and we don't have a priority list going forward. So that may not be the best situation, and we might want to avoid that at all costs. But again, we're thinking short term instead of thinking in terms of long term accessibility and needs. And this is just typical Democrat, This is what we're going to be seeing for the next 4 years, where they give us just enough. It's a little bit more than the Republicans when we're just supposed to feel good about it, but it's never really going to be enough to fix anything. Now, hopefully a lot of the progressives in the party can start pushing for more, and Bernie might actually be in a place where he can do some things to help us. And we'll talk about that after we finish going over this list. The $50 billion being put towards COVID-19 testing, great, probably not enough, but, at least they're putting money towards testing. $20 billion towards a national vaccine program in partnership with states, localities, and tribes. Better than nothing. Again, that doesn't actually fix the issue when we need a federal response program. And then, of course, they're making the child tax credit fully refundable for the year and increasing it from $3,000 per child to $3,600 per child. Sorry, they're increasing the credit to $3,000 per child and making it for children under 6, $3,600. So basically, anybody who has kids is just going to get a bigger tax refund. At the end of the day, that's not going to help a lot of people. It'll help some people for sure. It's good that it's there, I guess, but it's typical Democrat good. It's not really solving the major issues. So now I want to come back to this $2,000, $1,400 thing. So what has essentially happened here is that the Democrats had been promising we're going to get $2,000 a month. We're going to get this $2,000 a month payment, that it's going to happen, and that's what'll happen if we win Georgia. What they really meant was we're going to supplement the $600 that came through and try to make it $2,000 that way. So 600 and 1,400 making 2,000. Except that's not how things were promised, and that's not how things have been talked about through the entirety of everything that we've gone through. Kamala Harris actually posted this tweet on January 14th. We'll finish the job of getting a total of $2,000 in cash relief to people who need it most. The $600 already appropriated is simply not enough. Your next president, Joe Biden. But I want to talk about where Kamala Harris was in May. In May, Kamala Harris, then senator and not vice president, was hoping to get $2,000 a month. She worked with Bernie Sanders to introduce a bill in May that was supposed to give Americans $2,000 a month during the coronavirus pandemic, as all the job loss and everything was put into place. Things have not gotten better since May. So where is she to call out her president, the person that she's now working under, for this $2,000 a month? We should not have to deal with this in quite this way. And I'm going to be real, we're not in a situation where this $1,400 is really going to fix anything on top of the $600. We've needed retro pay. We've needed a lot more than this coming back. And the $2,000 that we're talking about is probably not going to get passed until late January. So if we got $600 passed in December, shouldn't we be getting $1,400 additional for December and then another $2,000 for January and then talk about getting another $2,000 out for February? That's where we should be, but it's not where we are. And again, this is the type of situation where they make promise after promise after promise and then they withdraw it. So why is Biden withdrawing this $2,000 thing? Why is he backpedaling to this? Well, it has to do with bipartisan support, our favorite Democrat phrase. With those margins, even holding the Democrats together to pass legislation along party lines could prove a challenge. The most conservative Senate Democrat, Joe Manchin, has already expressed skepticism about the need for a round of stimulus checks. Meanwhile, AOC has been someone who's been proposing moving forward with it. Generally speaking, she has been one of the only people outside of, say, Bernie Sanders who has been proposing this $2,000 a month position. But Biden, of course, wants to go with bipartisan majorities. He wants to do it the proper way, having 60 senators support all of this and get everything out and make sure that, everything is done properly. So let me explain what that really entails. The House tends to pass things through a majority, so the Democrats can pass things in the House with no problem. But the 50-50 tie in the Senate would theoretically be broken in any majority vote by Kamala Harris as the 51st vote for the Democrat side. However, to actually pass anything without a filibuster being an issue, and basically having the Republicans stand up and have Ted Cruz go through another riveting reading of Green Eggs and Ham, the Senate requires 60 votes to make sure that anything can actually get done. Now, instead of Biden looking towards alternative options, he wants to make sure that nothing actually happens in his administration and that none of this gets passed by appealing to Mitch McConnell as Senate Minority Leader to try to work out some sort of bipartisan legislature. Now, this isn't going to happen. This is the same thing the Obama administration did, and this is a problem. The Democrats have two very available options on the table, and they need to be pulling the trigger on these. Fortunately, Bernie Sanders is behind one of these triggers, and that is the use of a tool called budget reconciliation. What that basically means is that the person in charge of the budget committee, which is going to be Bernie Sanders, has the ability to put together some sort of bill that says, the budget needs to be passed. We need to get funding out to certain resources, and we can put this out, and it can't really be stopped in quite the same way. It only requires a majority vote in the Senate, which the Democrats have. That, of course, assumes that Joe Manchin doesn't stop the Democrats at all turns as the most conservative member of the Democratic Party. But Bernie can put this forward and change the budget rules and do this in such a way as to do this. There's also the nuclear option, which basically has been employed by the Republican Party on numerous occasions. And the nuclear option basically requires that they change the way that procedures are done in the Senate temporarily in order to pass certain legislature and to make sure that the filibuster is actually taken care of and removed. So basically, we're in a place where the Democrats could enact certain procedures to actually get all of this done. But at the end of the day, they're going to sit there and they're going to blame McConnell. They're going to blame that lack of an ability to do something. And they're, not going to get what needs to get done. So we need to hold them accountable, and we need to start pushing all of the major Democrats, especially, Nancy Pelosi, and backing people like AOC and Ilhan Omar, and trying to get the progressives the voice that they need through direct action and through calling a lot of these, more establishment Democrats out to make sure that they go for the more nuclear options. Because unless they subvert this system in which, only a handful of Republicans can just stop actual progress of what 51% of the country at least wants, that's ridiculous. They need to start pushing forward in that direction. Will they? Who knows? But at least the progressives seem to be the ones putting that voice out there, and we need to back them up. We need to really push for that, because the Democrats are the ones who need to make this change now. They are the ones standing in our way for making anything happen in terms of leftist agendas at all. And this isn't even addressing issues like Medicare for all, actual health care for people, or anything that the, progressive left would love to see. With that said, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and bell for notifications. You can follow me on Twitter and check out my Discord in the description down below. My name is Anarchist Tara, and I hope you enjoyed watching.